Welcome back, everyone, to a new episode on Northern Maple. As you all know by now, the federal budget was released last week, and I doubt anyone was surprised by the contents. The Liberals plan to balloon the deficit to $78 billion, far exceeding $62 billion Mark Carney projected in the election platform. While the Conservatives demand spending cuts, the NDP weigh abstentions, and the Bloc Québécois is doing what they do best, pushing for independence, yet demanding more for its provincial redistribution checks. It's the same tired script with few changes to the details, yet no one is truly investigating those details. I've watched about 10 hours of corporate media coverage so far, which is a lot because I normally do not, and no one has truly delved into the budget's nitty-gritty details. Every critique echoes the exact same old story we've heard for decades whenever a Liberal government tables a budget. Too much spending, no fiscal responsibility, and the irresponsible use of tax dollars. At this point, Liberal supporters simply expect their government to blow past its financial limits and waste money in bureaucracies. When the same narrative is repeated ad nauseum, it loses all meaning. So why do we keep using the same old tired argument? Isn't that Einstein's definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, yet expecting a different outcome somehow? Liberal supporters have long accepted deficits from the government, period. So rather than parroting others, I want to focus on a specific line item that isn't being talked about yet. But before that, I want to discuss how the Carney administration has separated the budget into two categories: operational spending and capital spending. They have committed to balancing the operational budget, so the day-to-day of the government, things like the cost of MP salaries by 2028-29. Within the budget, this is reflected by the following: cutting 40,000 public service jobs by 2028-29, streamline or eliminate inefficient or duplicate programs, reducing grants to external organizations, and recalibrating non-core activities across departments and other similar initiatives. Third, modernization and digitization. Simply or essentially put, the Carney administration wants to replace jobs with AI. And then fourth, eliminate inefficient taxes like, and we've heard this one, the luxury taxes on aircrafts and vessels. Yes, private jets and yachts, to reduce administrative costs. So yes, the government is planning to balance the operating budget by 2028-29, but what about the capital budget? Now, first, what exactly is a capital investment? The budget document itself defines it as, and I quote, "Capital investments for the purposes of the framework are defined broadly as any government expenditures or tax initiatives that contribute to the public or private sector capital formation, held directly on the government's balance sheet or on that of a private sector entity, Indigenous community, or another level of government." This comes straight out of the official Budget Canada website. Now, what is capital? Because that clearly isn't defined in the budget document. According to Investopia, which I feel like is a reliable source, investments are their jam, capital is a broad term or anything that confers value or benefit to its owners, such as a factory and its machinery, intellectual property like patents, what they plan for doing with AI, or the financial assets of a business or individual. In essence, it's something that generates revenue or can be traded for value. That's the clearest, most basic definition. With those two words clearly defined, let's examine what the Carney administration has classified as capital spending. Let's begin with NORAD modernization and Arctic sovereignty. Canadian Armed Forces procurement, so things like new submarines, new fighter jets, new equipment, and border security enhancements. Do any of these sound like capital investments, something that will generate monetary value? Or does it sound like operational spending to maintain and strengthen our military presence and its resources? The military and everything it entails has always been an operating expense. It's a critical one, and I'm not arguing against using the nearly $40 billion forecasted for these upgrades, but it has no place in the capital spending category. Next, we have universal coverage for contraceptives and diabetes medication, dental care for all earning under $90,000, and enhanced mental health and seniors supports. With the exception of free contraceptives, I fully support these measures. In fact, one of my deepest frustrations with politicians boasting about Canada's universal health care is the fact that families are going into debt to afford their child's insulin medication and the tools needed to manage diabetes. Canada does not have universal health care. We have access to emergency services if the hospitals are staffed for it. We have access to family doctors if they're accepting patients, period. And I don't support our money going towards contraceptives for three specific reasons. First, if you're not ready to have children, you simply shouldn't be having sex. It's that simple. Second, they disrupt the body's natural hormonal regulation and can cause long-term health issues. And third, this will be a windfall for Big Pharma, another bureaucratic protected profit scheme disguised as compassion. The same logic doesn't apply to diabetes medication. Women do not need birth control, but diabetics need insulin to live. And before anyone accuses me of shaming women, I hold men to the exact same standard. North America has become a continent of zero self-control, and it has to stop. Honestly, it's just gross. And one day I will cover the detrimental effects of feminism, but not today. I have a different goal for today. Anyway, I digress. Let's return to the point. These healthcare initiatives are not capital spending that will lead to capital investments. The Carney administration has split the budget into two categories, and yes, other nations have done so, but not quite like this. And he has deliberately shifted operational expenses into capital spending to create the illusion of fiscal discipline. The truth? This government's core spending needs exceed even those of the Trudeau era, the very administration Carney once slammed as fiscally reckless. And let's not forget, he denied ever advising Trudeau, despite his own WOF biography clearly listing him as an advisor to the previous prime minister. So either he's padding his resume or he's lying to Canadians. And if you look at the Trudeau administration and the new Carney administration, one seems like the clear continuation of the other. Carney obviously lied about not advising Trudeau. He obviously lied about creating generational investments. He obviously lied about balancing the true operational budget by 2028-29. And he's obviously lying about caring about the climate. All points he used, by the way, to get elected, and we all fell for it. All of this, though, doesn't even hold a candle to the conflict I found when I started to read each line item in the federal budget document. The Conservatives were pretty loud about the deficit and the proposed elimination of the luxury tax on aircrafts and vessels, which of course is hypocrisy at its best, seeing as Carney and his family prefer to fly private rather than economy and decrease their carbon footprint. But that's probably why he wants Canadians to sacrifice even more now, so that he and his family and his fellow elites don't have to. That tax cut meant nothing, though, when I started looking into the unused housing tax, UHT. Let me share my findings with you on this one. The Carney administration proposes eliminating the Underused Housing Tax, UHT, claiming administrative costs far outweigh the revenue and that it's now redundant thanks to the federal foreign buyer ban. Before we say fair enough, though, let's actually examine these policies. Let's start with the UHT, enacted in June of 2022. Its stated goal was to tackle Canada's housing crisis by targeting the unproductive use of residential stock, especially by non-resident foreign owners parking wealth in empty properties. The government was explicit. Non-Canadians using Canadian homes as passive wealth storage should pay their fair share and be discouraged from letting units sit idle. The CRA itself said revenue was not the primary aim. Fighting the housing crisis was. Well, did it work? Not even close. A 1% annual tax on vacant or underused homes had negligible impact on sales and availability. It changed nothing. A steeper rate might have moved the needle, though. If the government has no qualms taxing Canadian families into poverty, which it clearly doesn't, why hesitate to hit foreigners just as hard? Just a thought. Think on that one for a little bit. Now, for the federal foreign buyer ban, formerly the Prohibition on the Purchase of Residential Property by Non-Canadians Act, this temporary law, enforced since January 1st, 2023, originally ran for 2 years, but was extended in February of 2024 to January 1st, 2027. It blocks non-Canadians from buying residential property nationwide, with narrow exceptions to ease pressure on supply and prices. I won't dive into the fine print of the act because honestly, it's just irrelevant to the point I'm trying to make, and I really want to get to my point here. Here's the core issue. The Carney administration wants to eliminate the UHT to save money. Under the current federal foreign buyer ban, the UHT is redundant. However, that ban expires in a little over a year from now, and there has been no talk about extending it or making that policy permanent. If that policy expires, the Carney administration will be opening the housing market to foreigners once again, even though the housing crisis is only getting worse with each passing month. By the time the government finally builds all these homes they keep promising average Canadians with, we will be too indebted to purchase them. But do you know who will be wealthy enough to purchase these new homes and property? Carney's elite friends and all the foreigners who want to come to Canada. And if those homes do get built, I can absolutely see the Bank of Canada taking a play from the Carney playbook and create low-interest loans with one catch, the same catch Carney used as the governor of the Bank of England. Yes, low-interest loans will be available, but they will cap high loan-to-income mortgages at 15% for the lender's portfolio to curb risky household debt. That means you will still not be able to afford a home. Let's say the Carney administration does make the federal foreign buyer ban permanent. Would that stop the problem? Probably not, because they're simultaneously pushing to extend Canadian citizenship to foreigners in Bill C-3. And let's be honest, someone born abroad to a Canadian parent who doesn't even live here isn't truly a Canadian. And if Bill C-3 passes, these new Canadians who don't reside in Canada will be exempt from the ban. The policy becomes meaningless. So why do both the Carney and the Trudeau administration seem determined to flood Canada with outsiders? Here's what I've observed over the past 2 years. Debt trap to UBI via CBDC. Drive Canadians into poverty through crushing debt until we beg for universal basic income, delivered through central bank digital currency. Your income, spending, and behavior fully tracked and controlled by the government. Debt forgiven in exchange for compliance. Desperation makes it sound like salvation, but in fact, it's controlled compliance. Second, home equity tax and forced downsizing. It's been floating in the UK, and Canada follows the same playbook. With families already drowning, a new tax on home equity forces sales. People move into affordable units, 15-minute cities, smart cities, whatever they're calling it this week. Property ownership becomes a privilege for the elite. For everyone else, renting from the state. And then third, engineered job scarcity. DEI policies prioritizing foreigners and non-white applicants. White men, historically the backbone of labor, defense, and family provision, are systematically excluded and demonized. Break the provider, break the family, break the nation. Higher unemployment paves the way for UBI. Elite resource hoarding. Soon, only the ultra wealthy will own land, travel freely, or even eat real meat. The rest, rationed access by permission and fed by Bill Gates' laboratory vaccinated meat. And then we have another point, forced EV adoption and mobility lockdowns. Skyrocketing fuel taxes, carbon pricing, and regulatory strangulation are pricing gas and diesel vehicles out of reach. Meanwhile, EV mandates, 100% EV sales by 2035, are being rammed through. But in Canada, EVs are a disaster. 300, 400 kilometer range, and then that drops to about 150 in the winter. We will be stuck. We will not be able to travel. We will be part of the grid under its control. Mobility becomes a privilege, controlled by who has access to power, charging, and government-approved travel. Rural Canada, effectively grounded. These aren't disconnected policies. They form a pattern. The Carney administration is a direct continuation of the Trudeaus, despite the rebrand. Carney did advise Trudeau. His WF bio confirms it. And he's now advised by the same globalist circle. Their endgame, a supranational technocratic Marxist system. Call it globalism, call it control, where resources are centralized, decisions are made by experts, and dissent means exclusion. The goal? Impoverish the population, as they've done in Britain, until we beg for their solution and surrender our freedom. This is visible to anyone willing to look. The Trudeau years didn't improve lives, they destroyed millions. We elected Carney on promises of prosperity for all Canadians, yet his government is walking the same path, but even faster. If you support the Carney administration and disagree with what I've said, speak up and share your facts, absolutely. Objective truth is what we're seeking. This isn't about me being right, it's about the truth. Canadian journalism has abandoned its duty, searching for the truth and sharing it with Canadians. This week proved it. Legacy media obsesses over conservative hit pieces while ignoring the real story. For those who have been awake for quite some time, you are probably asking yourself daily if Canada has reached the point of no return. My honest answer is this: not yet. Our greatest weapon is free speech, and for now we still have it. Never stop asking why, never stop seeking the truth. Show kindness to your neighbor, tolerance to those you disagree with, and for the love of God, honor the forefathers who sacrificed their lives so you could be free to live yours. That's all I'm going to say on the topic today. I will see you guys next time. I hope this was informative, and please leave your comments if you have questions, if you disagree. That is what this platform is for. It is for the truth, for healthy debate. Let's discover the truth together, okay? Take care, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye.